So, welcome back, Mitro. In our previous episode, we saw how the landmark year of 1893 was an year when the soul of Bharat was reawakened.
But what happened after that? Why, in the next 50 years, we shifted towards a more Western value system? What compromises were made? What compulsions were there? Let's look at this in today's episode through a civilizational lens with particular emphasis on Mahatma Gandhi in the backdrop of our freedom struggle.
Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi wrote a book first, which is called Hind Swaraj. This was published in 1909. Let us look at what his original thinking was with regards to our culture, our ancient heritage, and our civilization. For this, you will get a very good glimpse if you read this book, and also what was in his mind originally. There are four key takeaways from that book if we want to understand Gandhi correctly and originally. I will just read out to you from there verbatim. In the first takeaway, he is talking of home rule or self rule. And he says that it is not just enough for the British to leave for Indians to adopt a British style society. As he puts it, some want English rule without the Englishman. That is to say, they would make India English. And when it becomes English, it will be called not Hindustan but Englistan. And this is not the Swaraj I want. And yet, I think to a great extent, we did become almost an Englistan. Anyway, his second and third points are more about how to tackle the British through non-violence, through boycott of trade, etc. So I leave that to you. If you ever get to read the book, let it be your own takeaways. But his fourth point, which is a key takeaway there, is a very important one. Here, Gandhi finally argues that India will never be free unless it rejects Western civilization itself. In the text, he is deeply critical of Western civilization, claiming India is being ground down, not under the English heel, but under that of modern civilization. He speaks about civilization not just in relation to India, though he argues that Western civilization is such. Now, listen to this carefully. Western civilization is such that one has only to be patient and it will be self-destroyed. Can you believe it? He writes here, Western civilization is such that one has only to be patient and it will be self-destroyed. I'm quoting from the book verbatim. Not only is Western civilization unhealthy for India, but Western civilization is by its own virtue unhealthy. A lot of good things about the Western civilization, but yet you must be just wary of some of the tenets there because that could lead us to that. And this is what Mahatma Gandhi, or at that time Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, also realized and had written it in his book called Hind Swaraj. And he was looking forward to building an India that was devoid of the Western civilizational trappings, devoid of the English culture, something in which its own civilizational values will flower, and he'll build that land and that rule and that government. And yet, by the time the freedom movement finally culminated in our getting the freedom, it didn't pan out that way. Now, Gandhi, from that point in 1909 to 1947, what happened that changed him? To a man who wanted Ramrajya, to a man who is now rooting for a government that is probably way different from what he had dreamt and originally wanted. Let's Check that out.
Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi arrived in India from South Africa in 1915.
On the 9th of January, to be precise. It is observed as the Bharati Pravasi Divas. Brilliant stroke, basically. He arrived on that date after almost 21 years in South Africa, where he went through a great transformation after the train incident, and he actually fought for the justice and rights of the people there, particularly the Indian community. He made a great contribution there, and when he arrived in India, 11 newspapers of the day made it headline news. So that tells you the kind of anticipation with which he was received in India. But then Gandhi, after arriving here, he had noticed that the Muslims were heavily in bed with the British. So it was a very hunky-dory relationship that was going on. But then, end of World War I, when the Ottoman Empire was defeated by the Allied forces in 1919, and the Khalifa, who was till then the emperor of the Ottoman Empire in Turkey, was now under a huge siege. This angered the Muslims in India, who then started a Khilafat movement against the British. It was for the first time that the Muslims took an adversarial position against them, and they started protests in India to be able to work against the British. Gandhi and many other leaders of the time took this as an opportunity to win back the Muslim bloc with the mainstream Indian people and then form an alliance together. That is the reason why Gandhi and the other leaders of the time, including Bal Gangadhar Tilak, supported the Khilafat movement. It's a different story that it was Kemal Ataturk who took charge in Turkey, himself banished the emperor and put an end to the Khalifa of the Islamic Empire, and the whole Khilafat movement then died down. This short Hindu-Muslim unity that started in 1919 almost ended by 1922. Now the Muslims were looking at something else and were being treated as a bloc in this divide and rule tactic of the British. So yes, this was a divide and rule policy of the British, and you can see how it pans out. In 1906, they went ahead with and encouraged the formation of the Muslim League. In 1917, they formed the institution of princely chambers. In 1925, they started the discussion on reservations for, to divide Hindu society for the Dalits. For all of Gandhi's faults or contributions, what we do need to keep in mind is that whilst we had great leaders before him, they were all more or less having a regional strength and then a marginal following in the rest of the country. It was Gandhi who, for the first time, came in and was able to unite the entire nation behind himself. This is a very great contribution, because you must understand that when you're running with your daily lives and your problems and whatever, to be able to dedicate yourself to a higher ideal and then to get this strength of numbers with you is not a mean task, because unless until that happens, you are most likely not able to defeat this aggressor or this colonial master. To do that, you needed to get them all together, and in that respect, Gandhi was greatly successful. Upon arrival, he first, as you are all aware, for a few years he just went around the countryside looking at people, understanding them, and then transforming himself into a common man. And that is how he changed his dress style and everything, and he became like the common person and one amongst them. And the kind of following that he had was tremendous. So it was a very important factor in order to get the freedom, notwithstanding the fact that all the sacrifices were made by every other person, many other people, like even Bhagat Singh, they gave up their lives, agreed, all of those are great in their own way. But we must not undermine or forget the fact that as Gandhi, he was able to unify the nation behind him, and that's a very big factor. The other very strong matter about Gandhi was that initially when he came and he started taking charge, he was the one who was dictating the terms, because he had his unique style of protest. The British never understood him. The British could not second guess him. The British could not predict him and they were absolutely flummoxed. The Governor General would write a letter to their parliament every 15 days about what was happening here, and they're all available in the archives. You can look at what they say. For those people, this man, when he talks of satyagraha, they don't understand what that is. When he talks of upavas, they don't understand what that is. These are all Hindu terms. And they did not know how he transformed these to make it into a political movement to galvanize the people and to be able to take up protest against them. And they did not know how to deal with it. And then they came up with the Gandhi-Irwin Pact. This is an important thing that we must pay attention to. So as we see, Mahatma Gandhi was at the peak of his popularity by the 1930s. But then they came up with a different plan now. Gandhi was having talks with Lord Irwin. Why he indulged in the talks, we do not know. But he did. He even had 11-point demands before he even starts talking with Irwin, which included amongst the demands, one of them was a lesser punishment for Bhagat Singh and his associates. The British did not accept a single point out of those 11. Yet Gandhi went on and had talks, a series of 8 talks with him, 8 times. In the Lahore Convention of the Congress, he even got the Congress to approve on 4 key points to be negotiated and taken from the British. One of them being complete freedom, the other being no entry for the councils. Third thing, the disbandment of the council completely because they were not representative of the Indian population. And then the last one being the disbandment of the Round Table Conference, which Congress was in no support of at all. Finally, when Irwin and Gandhi had the meeting, even out of these 4, not a single condition was met by the British or agreed upon.
And yet, the way the British presented it was a great media exercise. They could have called it the Irwin Gandhi Pact or a Delhi Pact or whatever. But no, they called it the Gandhi Irwin Pact. And then you had Churchill fuming over an ill clad fakir being entertained by their viceroy. And then there were pictures of Gandhi in front of the huge mansion and at the base of the imposing stairs to the mansion. They made the emotional Indian public feel that their leader had now come at equal terms to their viceroy. And we as Indians celebrated this as a major victory.
The pact was agreed upon on the 5th of March 1931. Subhash Chandra Bose at that time was in jail. He was released on 11th March. When he came out, he sought out for Gandhi and he learned that Gandhi was in Bombay. So he traveled all the way to Bombay, never got time with him. So he joined him on the way back from Bombay to Delhi in the train. And he there engaged with Mahatma Gandhi to ask him, what did we gain from this? And from what he understood, it was a complete loss. There was nothing that the Congress party or India that they represented had gained from this. And yet he found that every station that the train stopped, even at night 2 p.m. or 2 a.m., there were crowds milling out in the platforms. And they were all singing praises of Gandhi and they were all cheering him like a victory that has been achieved. And he writes in his letter, Subhash Chandra Bose writes in a letter that he says, this spectacle of seeing the multitudes celebrating a defeat in this fashion is the most unique thing I've ever come across. And again, they did make Gandhi accept certain conditions. He called off the salt march, the satyagraha, he called off the disobedient movement. The only thing he did secure was during the salt satyagraha, there were multitudes and multitudes who were arrested. 90,000 people, the jails were full. The British released them all. That was probably something of a gain. But nothing else to show in terms of anything else. Gandhi, furthermore, had accepted that he will also join and attend the Round Table Conference. This was a big win for the British. So in December, November to December, he set sail on a ship all the way to London. Again, it was a great media exercise. Gandhi was permitted to take 15 people with him to the delegation as a delegation. And yet, he went alone. Again, to this, we have no answers. Whether we check autobiographies or documents of the time or whatever, why did he do this? Why did he accept the Irvine Pact? There are no answers to this. He went there alone, and then because there were others in the conference, the Congress party was reduced to almost like one man against the other representatives from India. And it was on this basis that the British tried to project the Congress as not a true representative of the Indian population. And now they were looking at various other actors and players to come and become part of it so that they could try and divide this nation as much as possible.
Disappointed by the Irvine Pact of 1931, in 1933, Gandhi wanted to restart a disobedience civil campaign. But the Congress party was in no mood. They were keen to join the councils. Gandhi was against the councils because they were elected with only a 15% franchise and was not truly representative of the country's adult population. However, in order to reactivate the Congress people, he gave them permission to enter the council. In 1939, Gandhi came up with the demand that adult franchise be given to India and a constituent assembly formed from that so that a truly representative constitution of India could be framed. It was his belief that whilst the country and its multitudes were nationalistic, the representatives in the council had much narrower motivations. Muhammad Ali Jinnah opposed it because he knew any such move would further shrink the Muslim representation in the councils. B.R. Ambedkar opposed it because he was happy with the Pune Pact that gave reservation to the Dalits and he didn't find the need for a fresh constitution. The British opposed it because they wanted an India to continue to remain politically pliant to their interests. Britain at that time was the number one power in the world, and India was the main cause for it. So they were in no mood to let it go. However, World War II broke out. The Congress Party decided not to support Britain in the war. As a result, all their council members resigned. As a consequence of this, whatever little bargaining power that they had on the political platform against the British was lost. And by the end of the World War, Britain was reduced to a number three power, only after United States and the Soviet Union. Now the British wanted to leave India in a hurry. They were economically weakened, and the Indian National Army trials were going on, and there was a huge popular sentiment supporting them. There were almost 2 million World War II soldiers of Indian origin who were returning back. To put this into perspective, you should know that the current Indian army is comprises of 1.4 million. So 2 million tells you the kind of numbers that were returning back. And with the popular sentiment in favor of the INA, the British were worried. To add fuel to the fire, there was also the naval mutiny, and this considerably alarmed them. Not to undermine the efforts of Gandhi and his Congress party, But these were important considerations that forced the British to not only leave but now to leave in a hurry. The Congress was also very keen to be able to fill up the vacuum, and the British insisted that any attempts at providing adult franchise at this stage will only delay the independence further. So, a cabinet mission plan was created, and under its guidance, the Constituent Assembly was formed of 382 members, in which 73 were from the Muslim League and 78 representing the Muslims. All of them did not attend and boycotted. The princely chambers were all could send one member, but they too boycotted. So what remained formed the Constituent Assembly, and then the constitution was framed on that basis with a veto power by the British Parliament on all the statutes. And was it truly representative of the hopes and aspirations of the people of India that Gandhi had dreamt of? Not sure.
The rest is, my friends, history. You know that. What happened, what transpired. So, this is the story of the transformation from Hind Swaraj to the divisions of the Indians and the wilting under it of Mahatma Gandhi, the compromises made by Mohandas, some of the anomalies of the time which we have no explanations for, till the freedom, the partition, Nehru's elevation, and then the time after that. Dosto, friends, I leave you with these thoughts till we meet next time in the next episode. Thank you very much for your patient hearing and your support. Please keep sharing and subscribe. Thank you.